The Iran-Israel war, now raging into its fifth day, has sparked intense global scrutiny, with one question dominating the discourse: why is Russia, Iran's key ally, shrouded in silence? This isn't a passing curiosity. Media outlets, analysts, and strategists worldwide are dissecting this puzzle, given Iran's critical role as a supplier of drones to Russia. Reports confirm Iranian scientists traveled near Moscow to establish factories producing 2,700 drones annually. Yet, for 5 days, Russia has issued only a single vague statement labeling the conflict wrong before retreating into complete silence. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll unravel this geopolitical mystery, exploring the complex web of interests keeping Russia on the sidelines and what it means for the Middle East's future. Russia's ties with Iran run deep. Just 2 months after Masoud Pezeshkian took power, Vladimir Putin hosted him in Moscow, signing agreements including MOUs for nuclear cooperation, with Russia pledging support for Iran's nuclear reactor development, a step toward weapons capability. Iran's arsenal, MiG fighter jets, advanced equipment, is predominantly Russian-made. Pezeshkian even requested state-of-the-art Su-35 aircraft, and contracts were finalized. Yet, as Iran faces Israel's relentless assault, Russia offers no aid. This is the same Putin who could issue diplomatic statements or supply weapons, as Russia does with dual-use technologies like India's BrahMos missile, which incorporates Russian components. So why the deafening silence? Several factors drive Russia's restraint. First, its strained relationship with Trump is a significant hurdle. The US, under Trump's influence, has thrown unwavering support behind Israel, and Russia risks antagonizing a global superpower by backing Iran. Second, Russia understands that confronting Israel invites severe retaliation. Israel's military, backed by advanced technology and intelligence, could strike with overwhelming force. Third, the Ukraine war has left Russia economically vulnerable, battered by Western sanctions. During the oil embargo, the UAE and Saudi Arabia rescued Russia by purchasing its oil, refining it, and reselling it globally, bolstering Moscow's economy. War, as we must acknowledge, is often a business transaction, and Russia cannot afford to sever these vital economic ties. Putin's strategic partnership with Iran is undeniable, spanning military and economic domains, but antagonizing Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who staunchly oppose Iran's nuclear ambitions, would be catastrophic. These Gulf nations have made it clear: Iran's nuclear program threatens regional security, and they will not tolerate it. Provoking Israel also risks destabilizing the region, a scenario Putin has repeatedly criticized, citing concerns over Israel's own nuclear capabilities. Within Moscow, a significant Jewish community exerts domestic pressure, complicating any anti-Israel stance. Russia's silence is a calculated maneuver, navigating these diplomatic and geopolitical complexities. The collapse of Syria's Bashar al-Assad, another Russian ally who fled to Moscow, underscores Russia's dilemma. Now, Iran, reliant on Russian-made military hardware, teeters on the brink of collapse. Yet Russia remains silent. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who supported Russia during its darkest sanctions period, hold immense leverage. China, too, maintains strategic neutrality, unwilling to jeopardize its vast markets in these Gulf states by siding with Iran. For China, preserving economic ties with Saudi Arabia and the UAE, major buyers of Chinese goods, outweighs any loyalty to Iran. This pragmatic stance leaves Iran increasingly isolated. Iran's Shia ideology further deepens its isolation. Unlike Sunni Islam, which enjoys broader global acceptance, Shia Islam has limited appeal, alienating many Islamic nations. No Muslim-majority country openly supports Iran. Even Pakistan, despite some ties, avoids entanglement. Russia, acutely aware of this dynamic, has opted for neutrality, issuing a single statement before retreating, likely after private assurances to Iran. This is diplomatic gamesmanship at its core, public silence masking private calculations. Russia's restraint reveals a stark truth: in global politics, business interests eclipse alliances. Many expect Russia or China to intervene, but this misreads the geopolitical landscape. Iran is a crumbling state, devastated by decades of sanctions, economic mismanagement, and internal unrest. No major power wants to risk international isolation by backing a losing side. Russia may offer symbolic gestures, perhaps a future statement or limited aid, but substantive action is unlikely. China, prioritizing its economic foothold in the Gulf, will maintain its distance. Iran's isolation is absolute. No military support, no diplomatic cover, just silence from its former allies. The broader context illuminates Iran's predicament. Its economy, crippled by sanctions, cannot sustain a prolonged war. Its Shia politics alienate Sunni majority nations, leaving it without regional allies. Russia's silence is strategic, preserving ties with Gulf states and avoiding a clash with Israel. China's neutrality mirrors this pragmatism, safeguarding its economic interests. Iran's drone factories in Russia and nuclear agreements are overshadowed by these realities. Even as Iran escalates, no major power will rush to its aid, wary of the consequences of aligning with a faltering regime. For Indian workers in the Gulf, Russia's silence has significant implications. The UAE and Saudi Arabia, pivotal players in this geopolitical chess game, host millions of Indian expatriates. Their opposition to Iran's nuclear program aligns with US and Israeli interests, making them potential targets if Iran lashes out. Russia's neutrality reduces the risk of a wider global conflict, but does not eliminate the threat of Iranian missile strikes on Gulf economic hubs. Indian workers must remain vigilant, staying informed through reliable sources and adhering to local safety protocols in this volatile region. The human and economic stakes for India are immense. The Gulf is a lifeline, with Indian expatriates contributing billions in remittances annually. Iran's potential attacks on oil facilities or trade routes could spike global oil prices, disrupting India's energy security, as the Gulf supplies a significant portion of its oil imports. The presence of US military assets, aircraft carriers in the Arabian Sea, fighter jets across allied nations, signals America's readiness for conflict, further escalating tensions. Iran's isolation, with Russia and China stepping back, leaves it vulnerable but desperate, increasing the risk of erratic actions. The Jewish community in Moscow, the economic lifelines from Saudi Arabia, and the sanctions strangling Russia all outweigh any commitment to Iran. Russia's silence is not just diplomatic, it's a strategic retreat, prioritizing national interests over a faltering ally. China's aloofness reinforces this pattern, driven by its economic ambitions in the Gulf. Iran's drone production and nuclear aspirations, once symbols of its partnership with Russia, now fade against these pragmatic calculations. The war exposes Iran's fragility, abandoned by those it once called friends. This conflict lays bare the cold calculus of international relations. National interests, economic, strategic, and domestic, always supersede loyalties. Iran, once bolstered by Russian drones and Chinese trade, now faces Israel's wrath alone. As Russia's silence reverberates and China remains detached, the world witnesses a regime deserted by its allies, left to navigate a war it cannot win. The Middle East stands at a turning point, with Iran's isolation reshaping the region's geopolitical landscape. Stay tuned, as the coming days will reveal the full extent of this seismic shift and its global repercussions.